I had a dream many, many years ago, and this dream was that I would go to Indonesia and I would study orangutans. I would learn more about them than any other person had ever learned, and I would share this knowledge not just with the whole world, but with future generations. And my dream was also to help save orangutans from extinction. So now for the last 40 years, I have been working in Indonesian Borneo with orangutans. And I have been very fortunate because in a very profound way, I have been able to live out my dream. Now, I'm married. I went to the island of Borneo with my first husband, Rod Brindamore, and then I married Pabohab. Pabohab is an Aboriginal Dayak, one of the native people of Borneo. In the 19th century, they used to be called Dayak Indians because they wore feathers in their hair, like First Nations people do. And this picture was taken many years ago, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again. He was handsome then, he's still handsome now. So there are two species of orangutans. One of them is Sumatran species. Picture of a Sumatran species, Sumatran subadult male, white hair, thin face. The Bornean species is a species that I study, consisting of three populations, darker hair, wider face. Orangutans only have one major habitat type, and that is lowland tropical rainforest, of which there are many, many kinds. There's Nipa mangrove, there's also peat swamp forest, and tropical heath forest. Borneo, which is the third largest island on this planet, is a hotspot of biodiversity. There are 400 species of birds. In my study area in Tanjung Puting National Park, 9 species of primates, such as gibbons, pig-tailed macaques, crab-eating macaques, the endemic proboscis monkey, the endemic red leaf-eating monkey. Borneo is also the gliding mammal and gliding animal capital of the world. There are several species of flying squirrels, flying frogs. There's also a flying snake, of which I do not have a picture, but I have seen them. In fact, one lived in our hut for about 2 weeks. Now, orangutans are not our closest living relative in the animal kingdom. That honor, if you will, belongs to the chimpanzee, which shares 99% of our genetic material with us. Chimpanzees are so closely related to us that people can actually get a blood transfusion from them once the blood groups are matched. And this is not a joke. I really believe that Keith Richards has chimpanzee blood in his veins. Orangutans are a little bit more distant from us. They share 97% of our DNA, and perhaps that's why they're a little bit different from us in terms of their behavior and in terms of their physiology. Orangutans, unlike most other higher primates, are solitary or semi-solitary in the wild. Mothers and their offspring live alone, while the adult males, with these big cheek pads, throat pouches, are almost always alone except when they are consorting with receptive females. And recent research has just come out which indicates that orangutans have the slowest metabolism of any large mammal. An orangutan uses as much energy moving through the canopy as a person does when that person sits in a chair, an easy chair, and watches TV. So they're very big. This male is about 300 pounds, but they don't require as much food as you might think they would. Orangutan distribution, you can see here. I work in Tanjung Puting. I can't jump this high, but it's at the southern tip of Borneo, right in the middle there. And you can see the distribution of orangutans, how it's diminishing. And in the year 2000, Oh, good. In the year 2020, it's expected that the few orangutan populations left in Borneo will be here in Tanjung Puting, where I work, in some big swamps here, and up there in the mountains, and in Malaysia and Borneo. So orangutans are in serious danger of extinction. There's only 6,000 orangutans left in Sumatra, and about 40,000 orangutans left in Borneo. And what are the threats that they face? Well, first of all, logging, both legal and illegal. This is illegal. You can tell the guy's not wearing a shirt, has no safety equipment. But that is not the greatest danger now. Destruction of the tropical rainforest is the reason that orangutans are going extinct. Mining is also horrific for gold and for zircon. But the real threat is palm oil. Palm oil plantations totally obliterate the landscape, totally destroy the forest because of clear cutting. And I mean, just take a second to look at this. This is what happens to orangutans when palm oil goes in. And one of the reasons that palm oil is so particularly dangerous is because the palm oil plantations use fire. And it's now possible to use fire because of the increasing frequency. Oh my gosh. I apologize profusely. I've never had this happen to me before. Gosh. I apologize. I'm a person who virtually never uses her cell phone. Somebody had to force me to get one. In fact, they gave it to me and said, use it, so I can call you. Anyway, so fire is now an increasingly a mechanism of orangutan habitat destruction, because El Nino, which is a weather phenomenon that used to come maybe once every 7 or 8 years and brings massive drought to Borneo and also rain to... Gosh, this person... I can't believe this. I thought I turned it off. I really did. I apologize profusely. I'd get down on my knees, and this phone refuses to die. I can't turn it off. I'm serious. Gosh, I apologize. Oh, there it is. There it is. Finally, it's coming off. Okay, so global climate change is actually increasing the frequency of El Niños. So fire is becoming more and more the threat that is going to destroy orangutan populations in the wild. And our assistants in 2006 fought fire in the national park and on its edges for 6 weeks. And they were able to prevent the fire from spreading into the dry ground forest of the national park. But 15% of the national park was destroyed. So I was very fortunate because I was able to co-found an organization called OFI. You know, when you do the kind of work that I do, you know, funding, support is always a problem. You know, I teach part of the year at university, and one of my students said, "You have such passion for orangutans, why do you teach?" Well, you know, you have to have an income. You have to pay for, you know, you have to eat, you have to, anyways. But I was very fortunate that I co-established OFI, and I'd like to tell you what we do. We have an orangutan care center and quarantine. Here I am with a little baby named Lanang that was delivered by the police. Virtually every orangutan orphan that comes to our care center, it's basically an orphanage for orangutan babies, has some kind of trauma, whether physical, mental, emotional, psychological, what have you. Many times they have physical trauma and they get wounds, they get hurt in the process of capture when their mother is killed. And invariably their mothers are killed as palm oil crop raiders. Yes. So we have 330 orphans right now. We are very fortunate because we work with the Indonesian police. This man is a hero. He's a police officer, police sergeant, and he has confiscated at least 40 or 50 orangutans over the last 10 years. This is Lanang, something like 3 years later. So our program is very successful. Once the orangutans reach an age where They can withstand predators, and they learn how to forage, they learn how to make nests. Then they are released into the wild. The main problem we have is that the forests are going so quickly that there really is very little forest left into which we can release these wild-born ex-captive orangutans. We have a number of release camps. And of course, the heart and soul of what we do is at Camp Leakey. Camp Leakey is the camp that my former husband Rod and I co-established in 1971. It is now the major tourist attraction for the province of central Indonesian Borneo. You might think that that means a lot of people come. We get about 2,000 tourists a year. And this is Tom, who is the dominant male in the area, and you can see that what Tom wants, Tom gets. We also protect ancient forest. This is an ironwood tree that is probably at least 500 years old. We do patrols with the park, with the police, and with the park rangers. We also work with local farmers. We work with an organization called World Education, and to empower local farmers. 80% of the people around the national park are farmers. How do you empower farmers? Well, you help them increase their crop yield so they have food security. Once they have food security and they can send their children to school, they can buy clothes for their uniforms and books for their children, then they stop going into the national park to extract resources such as gold, zircon, or illegal logs. And this is our tree planting program. But I believe we should save the ancient forests. This is a forest that we planted 20 years ago. So you can see even in the tropics, trees don't grow that quickly, especially on tropical heath soils, which is what our study area consists of. We also do a lot of local education, and one of the ways that people can support us and can support the work for protecting orangutans in tropical rainforests is to volunteer. It's relatively cheap. It's 20 days, 3 weeks. And mainly what you do is construction, but in the course of the construction, you really get very close to the orangutans because the orangutans are very interested in what we do. So, thank you so much, and